Imagine falling in love with someone who seems perfect, brave, kind, and devoted to you, even from halfway across the world. Now imagine discovering that the person you trusted with your heart and your life savings never existed. That's exactly what happened to Daniel Brooks, a 47-year-old divorcee from Florida. For 2 years, he believed he'd found his second chance at love, until the truth shattered not just his finances, but his faith in people. Before we dive in, tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to Bite Crimes. Your support keeps us bringing you chilling, educational, and eye-opening true crime stories like this. Now sit back. Let's begin the story in full. Daniel Brooks had spent most of his adult life putting others first. A devoted father of 2 and a hard-working building contractor in Tampa, he thought he'd left romance behind after a painful divorce in his early 40s. His friends urged him to try online dating, but Daniel always brushed it off until one quiet evening in late 2021. He logged onto Facebook to check on his cousin's photos and saw a friend request from someone whose profile immediately caught his attention, Captain Laura James. In her picture, Laura was wearing U.S. Army fatigues, smiling warmly beneath a camo cap, a sun-streaked desert background behind her. Daniel hesitated at first. He wasn't the type to flirt online, but something about the sincerity in her smile drew him in. "Hello, Daniel." Her first message read, "I don't usually reach out like this, but you seem like someone I could trust." That simple message would be the beginning of a 2-year nightmare. Laura told Daniel she was stationed overseas on a peacekeeping mission. She claimed her job was demanding, her days long and sometimes dangerous, but she always found time to message him late at night. Daniel found himself opening up in ways he hadn't for years, about his divorce, his regrets, his hope to find companionship again. And Laura responded with empathy, humor, and warmth. Over the months, their messages turned into late-night video calls, though the camera was off and off on Laura's side. She said the base had strict communication protocols and bad connectivity. "When I get back to the States," she promised one night, "the first thing I'll do is come see you." Daniel smiled at his phone screen. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to believe in a future that felt bright again. About 4 months into their online relationship, Laura sent Daniel a message that sounded urgent. Her voice note was shaky, almost tearful, as she explained that her unit had run out of international phone credits and that she desperately wanted to stay in touch with him. "Could you help me with a $200 phone card?" she asked. "I hate to ask, but you're the only one I can trust." Daniel didn't hesitate. The thought of losing contact with her felt unbearable. He wired the money the same day. That was just the beginning. Soon came another request, this time for medical bills. Laura claimed she'd injured her leg during a training drill, and that the military's insurance wouldn't cover all the expenses. Then later, the most emotional plea of all, she needed help with travel documents and clearance fees, so she could finally come home and be with him. Month after month, Daniel sent money, sometimes $2,000, sometimes more, convincing himself he was helping the woman he loved. His friends noticed changes. He skipped fishing weekends, stopped going to his local bar, and often looked exhausted. One night, his daughter Emily confronted him. "Dad, are you sure about this woman? It's been almost a year. You've never even met her." Daniel bristled. "Emily, you don't understand. Laura's risking her life over there. I'm just doing what any man who loves her would do." But deep down, doubts began to gnaw at him. He brushed them aside every time Laura sent another sweet message or called him my hero. In early 2023, Daniel started noticing small inconsistencies. Laura once mentioned she was in Syria, then later said she was deployed in Afghanistan. She claimed she was 34, but in a photo she sent, her uniform badge bore a different name and rank. When Daniel questioned her, she grew defensive. "You have to trust me," she insisted. "Some things I can't share because of security reasons." Still, the warmth in her messages always pulled him back. And so he continued sending money, over $285,000 in total over 2 years. By mid-2023, Daniel had depleted his savings. When Laura asked for another $10,000 to cover a supposed emergency travel clearance, Daniel stalled. That's when her tone changed. "If you really love me, you'd help me," she texted. Or maybe I was wrong about you. For the first time, Daniel felt a stab of fear instead of love. He decided to do something he should have done long ago. He reverse searched one of the photos Laura had sent. His heart sank when the results showed the image belonged to a decorated Army officer, a real person, but one who had no connection to him and no idea her photos were being used. Daniel contacted the Army Public Affairs Office. Within days, he received a polite but firm email confirming his worst fear. Captain Laura James didn't exist. The photos and the name were stolen. He had been communicating with a scammer, most likely part of a sophisticated romance fraud network based overseas. Daniel felt as if the floor had disappeared beneath him. It wasn't just the money. It was the 2 years of hope, of late-night talks, of dreaming about a future together. All of it had been a lie. Shaken but determined, Daniel filed a report with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3. Investigators soon contacted him, asking for screenshots of his messages, transaction receipts, and even voice recordings. The agents explained that such scams were alarmingly common, and that the use of stolen military identities was a growing trend, often targeting people like Daniel, middle-aged, recently divorced, and searching for connection. But even as he cooperated with the investigation, Daniel felt haunted by one question. Who was really behind those messages that had once made him feel so loved? As the FBI dug deeper, they discovered traces of a far-reaching online syndicate using hundreds of fake profiles just like Captain Laura. But tracking the real perpetrator would lead them halfway across the globe, into a world of shadowy call centers, money mules, and a digital paper trail that seemed to vanish at every turn. And then, investigators found a single clue in Daniel's old emails. A tiny, almost overlooked detail that would soon crack the case wide open. The clue was buried in plain sight, an email header that Daniel had forwarded to the FBI. Most victims wouldn't have noticed it, but the agency's cyber forensics team spotted an IP address that didn't match the military domains it claimed to come from. Instead of originating from a secure U.S. Army server, the email had been sent through a free webmail account registered in Lagos, Nigeria. That discovery cracked open the first layer of the deception. The FBI's cyber division worked with Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and international partners to trace the digital trail. What they uncovered was staggering. An organized romance fraud network using hundreds of fake military profiles to target lonely hearts around the world. The syndicate specialized in stealing photos of real service members, mostly women, and building convincing online personas. They preyed on emotionally vulnerable targets, divorcees, widows, and retirees, especially in the United States. Once they gained trust, they shifted to the ask, first small amounts, then escalated thousands of dollars under the guise of emergencies. For Daniel, discovering there was no Captain Laura James was crushing, but learning that the same person had been running scams on dozens of other people made the betrayal feel even more bitter. By late 2023, U.S. investigators and the EFCC had enough evidence to launch a coordinated sting. Months of undercover monitoring helped them infiltrate fake profiles and chat rooms used by the scammers. In January 2024, joint task force teams executed raids in Lagos and Ibadan. Computers were seized, cash was confiscated, and several suspects were arrested, including a 32-year-old man who had been the primary voice behind Captain Laura. Agents later discovered that he had been simultaneously maintaining online relationships with at least 27 other victims, each convinced they were in love. When the FBI called Daniel to inform him about the arrests, the sense of vindication he expected didn't come. Instead, there was a heavy ache, grief for the 2 years of hope and dreams he'd lost. He agreed to testify as a cooperating witness, determined to make sure no one else would be manipulated the way he had been. I wanted to believe in love again, he admitted quietly during one interview. But it cost me everything. Daniel's story and the crackdown made headlines across Florida and across the U.S. Local stations interviewed cybersecurity experts, warning viewers that romance scams were not just about money. They were emotional ambushes. Community centers, churches, and senior groups began hosting workshops on spotting online red flags, requests for money for emergencies, inconsistent stories about deployment or travel, refusal to meet in person or appear on video. pressure to keep the relationship secret. For Daniel, going public was painful but necessary. He wanted people to understand that even the most cautious person could be caught off guard when a scammer knows exactly which heartstrings to pull. The trial in Lagos drew international attention. The man behind Laura and 3 accomplices faced charges of wire fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. Investigators presented hundreds of pages of chat logs, transaction receipts, and voice notes, including some in which the scammer rehearsed emotional pleas before sending them to victims. Daniel attended the hearings virtually, watching the man whose text had once said "Good night, my love," now sitting silently in a defendant's chair. By mid-2024, the court sentenced the lead perpetrator to 12 years in prison, while his accomplices received sentences of 5 to 8 years each. The FBI commended Daniel and other victims for coming forward. Cybercrime experts stressed that while this was a victory, romance scams remain a persistent global threat, with thousands of new cases reported every year. For Daniel, healing meant finding purpose in the pain. He joined an online support group for romance scam survivors and began speaking at local community events. "If my story can save even one person," he told a news crew, "then maybe all this pain won't be for nothing." Now, he warns others. Love isn't supposed to come with invoices. If someone you've never met keeps asking for money, stop, think, and verify. Daniel's ordeal exposed how scammers weaponize trust and affection. Behind every headline statistic is a real human being, someone whose emotions were manipulated before their savings were stolen. And it's a sobering truth for all of us. In the digital age, protecting yourself means guarding not just your passwords, but also your heart. Before we end, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think you would have spotted the red flags earlier than Daniel did? Share your opinions in the comments below. Your insight could help someone else avoid the same trap. Thank you for staying with us through this heartbreaking but vital story. If this episode opened your eyes to the dangers of online romance scams, please like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and most importantly, subscribe to Bite Crimes. Your support keeps us motivated to keep bringing you chilling, educational, and eye-opening true crime stories that protect and inform. Stay vigilant, stay aware, and remember, in the world of cybercrime, even love can be a weapon.